Welcome to Greenable Woodbridge. I am your host, Carolyn Ehrlich, and today's guest is Cathy Elliot Shaw, who is a co-chair of the Bordentown City Green Team.
That's right.
Now, I have to start off by letting all of our listeners know, this is a bit of a disclaimer, next to Woodbridge, I love Bordentown City the best in the whole state of New Jersey, primarily because my daughter and her family live there. But because they live there, I'm very familiar with the town and how wonderful it is. So this might end up being a Bordentown City love fest as much as understanding what you do for sustainability. So, you know, just for starters, Woodbridge goes all over the place and bragging all over that we are the Sustainable Jersey champions.
And you
now,
are.
to get that correct, we might have more points than anybody else, but in fact, there are 3 champions.
That's right.
We're in the big town group, then there's a middle size, and then there's a small group. And Bordentown City is the champion for the small group category. So, and they do that because there are resources that we have here that the smaller towns don't necessarily have. So it makes it really fair. But even if you're small, you do some phenomenal things and you really deserve to be the champion. Oh. So let's start off by talking about every town that's a part of Sustainable Jersey. I think it's the only one requirement that they have is that you have to have a green team.
That's right.
And that's your co-chair of that. And in Woodbridge, our green team is made mostly up of directors. And we are struggling, although we're getting more and more residents, we're not strong on volunteers. And you're just the opposite. You're strong on volunteers. So I'd love to understand about, you know, the dynamic and who these people are and how they contribute and how you get them to be on your green team.
So, well, just to paint a little bit of background about Bordentown City, we are a 1 square mile town on the Delaware River, adjacent to freshwater tidal marsh, and our population hovers around 4,500 people. So, you know, little Bordentown, big Woodbridge. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation today because our municipalities are so different, but we're both moving forward in whatever ways we can to make our communities more sustainable in so many different ways. So Bordentown is fortunate to have a number of volunteer groups that do wonderful, amazing work, and I think really contribute to making this little town a very vibrant place to live. As far as, I think most green teams struggle a little bit with finding volunteers, but as I was thinking about our chat today, I came up with three components that I think help us. One of them is developing a network of folks that you can go to personally. And you know, so I met a woman, I like to give examples. So I met a woman at a city commission meeting, and she seemed very organized, and I asked her, would she help me with our green fair, manage our exhibitor list? And she agreed to do that, and I learned that she is very comfortable finding her way around Excel spreadsheets. So now she does our fleet inventory.
Oh, wow. So that is a find.
Yeah. So, you know, you find people who like to do artwork and graphics and people who like to garden. We ask them to help us with our plant swap. So I think if you put out a general call to help, you're less likely to have volunteers come forward. But that personal touch of being able to say, we have this need and we think you could help. I think it helps people feel valued and good contributors and also really comfortable. I think sometimes people are intimidated because maybe they're not an expert on all things sustainable, but it gives them a comfort level because yes, this is something they can do.
Absolutely.
And the second component I was thinking about was people like to get their hands dirty. They like to come out for a work day where they're cleaning up or planting things, and I think those are the events where we have the least amount of issue with having enough volunteers. So, and then at those events, you meet the people
Right.
that you can call on later. You find out, you meet them, you find out what their interests are, and then go from there. And the last way that we have been able to get volunteer help, more on bigger projects, but it can be smaller projects too, is to tap our local service groups like Kiwanis, Rotary, Girl Scout troops, Boy Scout troops, and that kind of youth groups from local churches and whatnot. And that's been another way that we've been able to pull volunteers in to help us with our projects.
That's great. We do a little bit of that, but you've really got it. And, you know, being a smaller town, I think it's easier to network with each other because
that's probably
everybody
the case.
knows somebody else,
Yeah,
and it really makes it easier. And also, in Bordentown City, because you're so close to Trenton, and some of the colleges, local New Jersey counties, you have a nice little brain trust.
Yeah, I guess we do.
Yeah.
And you're just putting ideas into my head that maybe that's something that we should tap tap more than we do.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, So, okay, so one of your programs, and you talked about you have nonprofit groups that do things. So my granddaughter has been fostering kittens as part of the Bordentown City Bordentown City Cats program.
Yeah.
And that is so marvelous. I talk about it to everybody. I think everybody that I know here in Woodbridge knows about what's going on there. So please explain it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Well, like many communities, until the early 2000s, I would say, there were probably 6 colonies of feral cats in the municipality. People, would feed them, they would multiply, they would become a nuisance. It was felt that they were a health hazard. So one of our residents had the idea of forming this organization, Bordentown City Cats, and the goal of the organization was to find a more humane and sustainable way to manage sometimes I call them feral cats, sometimes I call them outdoor cats. So I guess I don't know exactly what the right name is, but with the support of our governing body, Bordentown City Cats became the lead group to feed and care for the cats. So that way we didn't have a lot of different people feeding or overfeeding, or it was done in a very organized manner. And they began the trap, neuter, release program. They began capturing kittens and socializing them so that they could be adopted. And the programs evolved, and I just want to give the full disclosure that I'm not a member of the Bordentown City Cats, so speaking as accurately as I can, but they've moved on. They have the populations under control, so now they help with stray cats. I think there are still some cats that can't be domesticated that they care for, but they're in charge of providing medical care and whatnot. They've worked with our local food pantry to stock pet food for people who are in need, who need pet food. Through that process, they can find people whose pets need vaccinations and whatnot. So they're doing amazing work, and they're the best way to find out more about them is on social media. If you Google them, you'll find them, and they're always looking for support, and that's a good way to find out more about them.
So I mean, Violet, who's 12 years old, and she loves animals, and I have pictures of her lying, reading a book and having 4 kittens all cuddling up with her, and it's so cute. And what happens is that she gets them when they're teeny weeny. They still have to be fed. I mean, my daughter has to do a lot because you're raising kittens. Yeah. And then once they're at the point where they are tame, I guess the word is,
Yeah.
and socialized. People, they go on Facebook and
Yeah.
people sign up to adopt the
Yeah, and they're-
cats and
right.
the kittens.
Right.
And it's a good lesson for my
Right, and
Violet to learn.
that fostering component is so
Yeah,
important,
it is.
so that the kittens can be, eventually go to live at a loving home.
Yeah.
Their forever home. So Violet's doing great work.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's terrific.
Yep.
So, switching gears a little bit, when I looked at your entries on the Sustainable Jersey website, you had so much about your downtown, your buy local programs, your business recognition, your special events, and you could tell that everybody's heart is in promoting your downtown. And to tell you the truth, it is phenomenal. It's walkable, it's got great restaurants, it's got great little shops, but there's always a buzz.
There's always a buzz,
There's
yep.
always a buzz.
Not just at the
and-
coffee shop.
and the other thing that I learned very early on was that the locals, no matter what, if they know you or not, will be saying hi. The visitors don't. But that is the spirit kind
Yeah.
of Bordentown City. So tell
Yeah.
us how you make it so wonderful.
Yeah. So I credit is really due to our downtown Bordentown Association, which is our local business association. It has about 70 members, and I'm not going to say all the words in the right order, but their mission is to promote living, dining, shopping, and one other thing in Bordentown City, and they do that in a variety of ways. They have a lot of special events, which I know if you've visited Bordentown, there's almost always something going on. Just a few of them are our Cranberry Festival in the fall, which is a big street fair with a lot of local and not so local crafters. We have chocolate walks.
I've done that.
Yeah. So around the holidays and around Valentine's Day, the shop owners have open up their doors and they serve refreshments, including something that's chocolatey. You get a passport, and as you go from business to business, you get your passport checked, and then there are prizes. So who doesn't love a night out like that?
That was so much fun.
Yeah. So there are a lot of other events, and I'm going to call it the DBA. They also work with the other organizations and groups in town to support things like our Green Fair, our Street of Dreams car show. That's usually later in June. And they also work on beautification of our main street with hanging baskets and flower pots, so I think we really do a good job at supporting each other. I don't know how many times I've asked folks who like to visit the shops too. This is another volunteer networking. Could you please hang these flyers to let us put their flyers in our shop, in their shop windows, so we can advertise that way, and all. So anyway, so yeah, I agree that our city is fun. It really
is.
fun,
It's an upbeat kind of town.
and I think we really have to thank our DBA and our municipal government and their support to allow all these great things that happen.
And back when we all first started, I copied something from you.
Oh, no.
Which was, so I was in one of the little shops and I saw that they had this business certificate, green business certificate. And I said, wow, that is great.
Right.
And it was a recognition of a business that was following sustainable activities.
Right, and thank you for prompting me on that. We do have a green business recognition. That's also one of our actions, and this is the Sustainable Jersey program. And we usually manage that through businesses do sort of a self-assessment to see where they are, what are they doing that's sustainable, what practices are they doing, and then our goal is to, at intervals, recognize one or two or three businesses that sort of stand out. So in our past Green Business awardees. We've done our laundromat, which was built with really high efficiency washers and dryers. We've recognized food establishments that source locally and use environmentally friendly products. Let's see who else. We recognized our art gallery for green practices that have been done there. But when you think about it, a lot of our businesses they're doing something. We have a used bookstore, so they're reselling, giving books a second life. We have a vintage clothing store, so those clothes are getting.
I bought clothes from there.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah, and we're looking to find ways to partner further, especially, and I'll probably mention later on. One thing that's been on my mind lately is food waste reduction. So now we have a lovely newer coffee shop, and I'm wondering, well, how can we take those spent coffee grounds and put them to good use? So
let's stay on that topic. So
okay.
Here in Woodbridge, just to give you some ideas, because we've also really started focusing on that. So when the health department has to go to the restaurants, obviously, every year to give them their inspection. They give them a little, something about this size, and it tells them how they can give their leftover food, how you package it, what you have to do, to the food pantry.
Oh.
So the restaurants aren't throwing it out. So that's one of the really great things that we do.
Thank you for that idea.
And I'll share with you later what that brochure looks like. But this is just starting, so I think we probably have just a few restaurants signed up. But that's something you could definitely do in Bordentown. And we're just starting our composting. So this will be composting news will be new to us.
Wow.
So have you have
so
any
municipal
ideas?
composting or municipal composting?
What we're going to do is we're going to set up a couple of centers, like one in Colonia, and we're not doing it at Public Works because that's so far out of the way.
I see.
That nobody will go there. So we'll have bins for people, a lot of education, because you have to have a lot of education.
Yeah.
And then we'll have bins that they can bring, and we're hoping that the Environmental Commission will be the volunteers
that
are going to oversee it.
Yeah,
So
keep my fingers crossed that it works.
This is still very conceptual.
Yeah.
So you have an absolutely wonderful partnership with a farm, Fernbrook Farm, which is really right down the road from Bordentown City, and it involves pizza boxes. So please tell us about that.
Yeah, who would think? We're recycling pizza boxes. So a local farmer came to the Environmental Commission in 2019 with this idea of using used pizza boxes, which you can't recycle because they have food waste on them, as weed suppressant between the crop rows. And so working with our recycling coordinator, we built one pizza bin for drop off. It's a little shed and there's a slot where you can drop in your pizza box. And we received so many pizza boxes that now we have 3 bins, and they from time to time overflow, and there's pizza boxes all over. And it's amazing to see people's, first, how much pizza we eat, and then secondly, people's dedication to keeping those boxes out of the waste stream. So that ties into the 3 goals of the program, and one of them, of course, I just mentioned, was to keep materials out of the waste stream, out of the landfill, and put them to a beneficial reuse. And the second goal was to provide farmers with a carbon-based method of suppressing weeds. So the boxes deteriorate, they go back into that organic matter, goes back into the soil, and then we can grow more tomatoes so we can make more pizza. It's a wonderful cycle.
It is.
And then the last goal of the program is to, get people thinking about what else you can keep out of the waste stream. If you're creative, what else can you do to, my theory is that we all take little steps, and if lots of people take lots of little steps, then
Yep.
we see big change. So anyway, so we're working with pizza boxes.
Philosophy.
Yeah.
So you have another program that I think would go over great here in Woodbridge. And I really want to learn more about this, and it's the spotted lanternfly pub crawl.
Right. So, yeah, Bordentown City was hit hard with spotted lanternflies. A lot of them everywhere. So one of our residents decided to, or who just got very interested in the topic, learned a lot about the insect, and what to, was wondering how can we combat them, and I guess, for your viewers, it's an invasive pest and doesn't have really natural enemies here in New Jersey, and they're pretty destructive to ornamental crops and whatnot. So this individual decided to organize a lanternfly murder / pub crawl, and she engaged 3 of our local pub establishments to participate. There was a time and day that we all gathered, and we were provided with fly swatters. We had a little informational talk, and then we divided and went through town. It was on the honor system. You kept track of how many lanternflies you killed.
You didn't have to bring the dead ones in.
You didn't have to bring the dead ones in. And then there were prizes for the top killers. And it's so funny because I'm just not the kind of person that kills things. So it's so funny to hear me saying, like, and we killed a lot of lanternflies that day. Anyway, so I wanted to share with you, I brought some show and tell. This is our one of our local T-shirt producers designed and produced the T-shirts for the occasion, and these were available. These were the sponsors, and so proceeds from the sale of the T-shirts, and after materials were covered, went to a local charity. So
Very nice. That's great.
So it was a win-win on so many different levels.
I think we could definitely copy that here.
Yeah. So the T-shirt's so much fun. So I thought I'd bring it along.
That is just so cool.
Yeah. And what was interesting about that event, in going back to our conversation about volunteers, is that somebody else organized that, not somebody from the Environmental Commission, not our regular organizers. And it drew a different audience to the event. And that really stood out in my mind as something that we need to do. We need to reach, we need to find ways to reach different groups of people that might not know what's going on, what the Environmental Commission or the Green Team is planning, but they knew what this person was planning. So, so that stuck out in my mind from that event as far as, how to capture the volunteers.
Well, believe it or not, we only have a few minutes left, and we certainly did not cover all the things that we want to talk about. But is there anything you want to make sure that you mention, and before we have to wrap up?
Oh, throw something out.
Throw
something out to me.
Okay, so your community gardens are a little different.
Oh, yeah, we love our community garden. That was a program that, is sort of interesting that it was talked about. I feel like it was talked about for a long time. Where should it go? How would it work? And finally, members of the Environmental Commission and the Green Team approached our Board of Education to use a portion of a school property, open field, for the community garden. So it just completed its 7th season, and like you said with your composting program, it started with just a piece of land, and our Department of Public Works helped us with site prep, which was a big job. We put up a fence, we marked off plots. We didn't have water the first season. Then we got water tanks where you could drag buckets to, and then we got real running water eventually. Last year we constructed. I wouldn't call them. We framed in each plot. I think we have about 35 plots. It's an organic garden. It's $25 a season to participate, and then you have your own plot to grow whatever you'd like. We have potluck dinners and a pumpkin patch, and it's just a fun and another nice way to meet members of the community that you wouldn't have had a chance to meet, if they weren't gardeners also.
That's a great note to end on.
Yeah.
It was so Bordentown City is great, and you are a champion, you are a leader, and I hope that we both continue to be sustainable Jersey champions.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me today.
I'm
It was
really
a great
glad
pleasure.
you came. It really is terrific. Great show. Thank you for watching Greenable Woodbridge and being part of the excitement and part of the change. Thank you, Cathy.
Thank you, Carolyn.